So, you're a skilled worker, and you've got your sights set on Canada. You've probably heard about express entry, right? It's talked about like it's the gold standard for immigrating. But here's the thing. To actually make it through, you need way more than just a dream. You need a killer strategy. And that's exactly what we're going to lay out for you. A strategic roadmap to get you there.
Okay, but first things first, let's talk about that name, Express. It kind of makes it sound fast, right? Well, not exactly. The final part, yeah, that can be pretty quick. But the journey to even get to that point, it's a whole other story. The competition is absolutely fierce. Getting your profile into the system is really just the starting line of a marathon, definitely not a sprint.
So here's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're breaking it all down for you. We'll start with what express entry really is. Then, we'll talk about the 3 gates you have to get through just to be considered. We'll get into your score, what it is, and how to boost it. Then the real game changer, the new category system. After that, we'll cover the crazy high-stakes race that begins once you get an invitation. And finally, we'll wrap up with the big risks, the mistakes that could stop your application dead in its tracks.
All right, let's jump right in with the absolute basics. Seriously, just misunderstanding this one core idea is where so many people with really strong profiles go wrong right from the start.
Here's the most important thing you need to get. You don't apply to express entry. That's not how it works. It's not an immigration program itself. A better way to think about it is like a giant, super smart sorting system. It's an online platform that manages a huge pool of candidates, and it's constantly scanning that pool to pick out the best people for 3 different immigration programs.
So the big question is, how do you even get into that pool in the first place? Well, you have to prove you're eligible to enter through one of 3 very specific doorways. And this, right here, is the first and maybe the most important filter in the whole process.
Okay, so these are your 3 main doors. First up, you've got the Federal Skilled Worker Program. This is for professionals who have experience from outside of Canada. To even get in the running for this one, you need to hit at least 67 out of 100 points on a totally separate points grid. Then there's the Canadian Experience Class, or CEC. As the name suggests, this is for people who already have at least a year of skilled work experience inside Canada. And finally, the Federal Skilled Trades Program. This one's for qualified tradespeople, think plumbers, electricians, chefs, who usually need a Canadian job offer or certificate of qualification. The bottom line, you have to meet the minimum requirements for at least one of these just to get your foot in the door.
All right, so let's say you've made it. You're in the pool. Now what? Well, from this point on, everything boils down to one single number, your Comprehensive Ranking System score, the CRS. And this isn't just some passive grade. Think of it as your live rank on a huge global leaderboard, putting you head-to-head with every other candidate out there. So how is that score calculated? It's all based on what they call human capital factors. We're talking about your age, your level of education, and for that, you'll need an ECA, an Educational Credential Assessment, to prove it's on par with a Canadian one. Then there's your language skills from official tests, and of course, your skilled work experience. And that experience has to fall into a specific NOC tier category. NOC is the National Occupational Classification, and tier is about the skill level. What this really means is that Canada is looking for people in management, professional or skilled technical and trade jobs. Oh, and if you have a spouse or partner, their skills can give your total score a nice little boost too.
And this slide, wow. This really shows you the brutal reality of how time is your enemy in this process. Age is a massive factor. You're at your peak for points right up until you're 29. The very day you turn 30, bang, you lose 5 points. By the time you're 40, you're down 55 points. The system just straight up favors younger applicants. So what do you do if you're over 30? You have to make up for it somewhere else. You can't get any younger, obviously, but you can retake that language test to squeeze out a few more points, or maybe get a second degree assessed. You have to be strategic and claw back every single point you possibly can.
And then there's this, another absolute, non-negotiable requirement for almost everyone. This number you're seeing is the minimum amount of settlement funds that a single person has to prove they have. It has to be your money, liquid, in the bank. And to be clear, this is not a fee you pay to anyone. It's just proof that you can support yourself when you first get to Canada. And that number goes up for every family member you add. It's simple. No proof of funds, no invitation. End of story.
Okay, so for the longest time, the whole game was just about getting the highest CRS score possible. That's it. But things have changed. And a pretty major shift, Canada decided it doesn't just need the highest scoring people in general, it needs people with very specific skills for its economy. And this has added a whole new strategic layer to the entire system.
And here they are. These are the priority categories right now. If your work experience is in healthcare, a STEM field, one of the skilled trades, transportation, or even agriculture, you now have a huge leg up. And you know what the biggest advantage of all is? Strong French language skills. That can give your profile an unbelievable boost. Suddenly, you're not just competing in the giant general pool anymore, you're playing in a much smaller, more targeted one.
This chart really paints the picture of why being in one of those categories is such a big deal. Look at the general draw. To get an invitation, the cutoff score can be incredibly high. We're often talking over 500 points. It's a tough mountain to climb. But now look at the category draw. For someone in, say, a healthcare job, or who's a strong French speaker, that required score can plummet, sometimes down into the low 400s. I mean, that's the strategic edge right there. It's a completely different playing field.
So, you've done it. You've optimized your profile, your score is high enough, and then one day, that magic email lands in your inbox. You received an invitation to apply, an ITA. This is the moment you've been working for. But this is also where the pressure really cranks up. The real race has just begun. It's a final, high-stakes sprint to the finish line. The second you get that ITA, a clock starts ticking, loudly. You have to gather and upload every single one of your supporting documents. We're talking police certificates from every country you've lived in, medical exams, super detailed letters from your employers, all of it. Then you have to fill out the final electronic application, pay all the fees, and hit that submit button. Your goal is to get that acknowledgement of receipt, or AOR, because that's what officially locks in your application.
So, how much time do you get for this whole complicated process? Just 60 days. That's it. 60. And let me be clear, there are no extensions, no second chances, no excuses. If you miss that deadline by even 1 minute, your invitation disappears. Poof. And you're sent right back to the beginning, just another profile waiting in the pool. But here's the payoff. The reward for getting everything absolutely perfect within that tight 60-day window is that the express part of Express Entry finally kicks in. The prize for all that hard work and diligence is a super fast processing time. For most people who submit a perfect application, a final decision on their permanent residence comes through in about 6 months or even less.
But, and this is a big but, we have to be crystal clear about something. The system is absolutely unforgiving. One tiny mistake can completely sink your application. So let's wrap this up by focusing on the most critical, dream-killing errors that you have to avoid at all costs.
Okay, this right here is the biggest one. The most serious risk of all is misrepresentation. And listen, this doesn't mean you told some huge, elaborate lie. It can be something as small as fudging your employment dates by just a few weeks, or maybe tweaking your job duties just a little to better match a certain job code. If an immigration officer finds any kind of inconsistency, it's not just a rejection, it's a 5-year ban from even entering Canada. The #1 rule is simple, and it is brutal. Be 100% accurate all the time, no exceptions.
And believe me, there are other traps just waiting for you if you're not prepared. Let's say you submit your application, but you're missing just one document. What happens? Instant rejection, and you lose all your fees. What if you forget that your profile is only good for 12 months in the pool? Well, it just expires, and you vanish from the system completely. And don't forget about that age factor we talked about. Your score can literally drop on your birthday while you're just sitting there in the pool, and that one change could be enough to knock you out of the running for the next round of invitations.
So, all of this brings us to the single most important strategic question you need to be asking yourself right now. It's not enough anymore to just chase the highest possible score. That's old thinking. In today's Express Entry system, you need a dual strategy. You have to look at your profile and ask, is this just built to get points? Or is it built to fit into a category that Canada desperately needs right now? How you answer that question, well, that's the key to turning this whole Canadian dream into your actual reality.